Have you ever found yourself considering a pawn move in the opening, wondering if it is a brilliant advance or a risky gamble? A premature pawn push in chess is essentially an advance of a pawn that creates more weaknesses or liabilities than it gains advantages, often without proper support or strategic justification. The core reason such a move is considered premature often revolves around several critical factors. One primary concern is the loss of central control, as an unsupported pawn push can concede vital central squares to your opponent, giving them more space and influence. Another significant risk involves king safety. Pawns pushed in front of your king create permanent holes, which can become targets for enemy attacks later in the game. You might also weaken your pawn structure by creating isolated, backward, or doubled pawns, which are difficult to defend and limit your piece mobility. Sometimes, a pawn push can block the natural development routes for your own pieces, preventing your bishops or knights from reaching their optimal squares. Lastly, pushing pawns instead of developing your pieces can lead to a lag in development, allowing your opponent to gain a significant initiative. To avoid premature pawn pushes, consistently ask yourself a few key questions before making the move. First, consider if your pieces are developed enough to support the advance or exploit any resulting open lines. Second, evaluate the long-term impact on your pawn structure. Will it create permanent weaknesses that are hard to defend? Third, assess if the pawn push helps control the center or merely leaves a hole behind. Finally, always think about your king's safety. An early pawn storm can often backfire by exposing your own monarch. Understanding the nature of pawn structures is crucial here. Consider whether a push creates a static weakness that cannot be easily repaired, or a dynamic weakness that can be compensated by immediate activity. This careful evaluation is a form of prophylactic thinking, where you anticipate and prevent your opponent's threats before they arise. Remember that pawns are the skeleton of your position. Once moved, they cannot retreat, making their advances permanent commitments. By diligently evaluating the potential consequences of each pawn advance on your central control, king safety, and overall piece coordination, you will develop a more solid and resilient position, setting the stage for a stronger middle game and a greater chance of success.